Hello, and welcome to Real Television. My name is Spencer, and if this video has come across your feed, then it has materialized right when you needed it to. So today I'm going to be talking about my painting called False Prophet. I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with organized religion and how it's affected my life in a symbolic way that would be easily understandable for other people. I originally painted it without any reason necessarily other than the fact that I wanted it to be about religion. So I just kind of let myself design it the way that it's been designed and sort of just let myself pick different details that I thought would add to the piece without really even thinking about the meaning until a few years later, like right now, where I realized that there is a lot of symbolism in what I did. Thank you to Spirit for being my muse. But yeah, let me go ahead and put it on the screen. I put squiggles and stuff on it just because I didn't want, random people just taking a screenshot of it so easily, because it can so easily be done nowadays. But with that being said, I wanted to start with how and why I used the colors that I used, because I figured that would be the easiest thing to start with. I started with the idea that I wanted the lion to be white. I wanted to start with a lion base and then kind of add different details from there. But the lion itself is very Christian, because when I grew up in Mormonism, it was talked about that you would be as loud as a lion or fight like a lion type of thing. I don't know how to explain that, but I just distinctly remember lions being very central to Christianity just because it's associated with God or Jesus or whatever. But originally I wanted the lion to be white because of the idea that you're supposed to be pure, or like you're supposed to be all these different things at the same time. That is nearly impossible because that's perfection.
Perfection.
And we as humans are not perfect.
Inconceivable! You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So the idea that I made it more gray than white is just because it's that idea that a lot of preachers even, or just like people in general in organized Christianity specifically, although it's not limited to only Christianity as the religion that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about organized religion in general, but more specific to my own experience, which is Mormonism. But with that being said, the reason I painted it more gray is just because there's a lot of gray that they don't want to acknowledge.
What a coincidence! Because that's today.
So with the light coming from the bottom left corner, it's supposed to symbolize the idea of being found out or being exposed for certain behaviors or different thought processes that are actually negative to what Jesus taught. I find that very important to distinguish, because a lot of the times people inject their own meaning into what the scriptures had said when I was growing up. So it's a lot of cherry picking like today.
You will find me a respectful, quiet, passive observer of the truth.
And with the white being more gray, it just shows that they don't see like they think they see, which ties into the fact that I did not paint whiskers on the lion, because generally, if you think about it, cats need whiskers to see in dark places or small spaces. So in the fact that he does not have whiskers is very telling in itself, because it's almost like saying, oh, well, I'm so proud and high and mighty that I don't need anything to see in the dark because I already know.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
That kind of thing. And especially with the eyes being white and surrounded by darkness, that's the same idea, but just in the eyes specifically, because it's pointedly pointing out it's pointing out that they don't actually see what they're talking about. And especially if you think about it, because when you zoom in onto this picture, let me make it bigger real quick. You see that there's crosses on the third eye area as well as the irises themselves. And the white parts of the eye is actually gray as well because they don't see anything outside of the crosshairs. Literally crosshairs is what I was going for there.
5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
The idea that I was going for is there's crosshairs on the eyes because there are always a lot of these false prophets, hence the title, are crucifying those that they deem outside of their rhetoric. And so I wanted to kind of paint a picture of how that's portrayed with symbolism, of course. But this picture is also very reminiscent of like those old paintings of saints, hence the green around the head. And I used green specifically because of the associations with both healing and greed, like all the positive and negative effects of what green means. So in this context, it means, you know, the false leadership in addition to false sainthood, the corruption that is rampant within a lot of religious places or religions in general, just because a lot of people can't distinguish a real leader from a false one right now.
And look at this! I have the shusher. I am your captain. But you are not good, Captain. You told us these things, and we all believed them.
And that's probably been the whole test of time, really, as far as what's happened with a lot of religions. AKA, like, if you think about Christianity specifically, the Crusades back then, they literally killed people who did not agree with them. So, and that still happens today, I would say, in some places, like sundown places, specifically like KKK. People tend to be really, really Christian. So that would be an association that I would make with that as well. Hence the eyes being 3 of them. If you include the middle eye, that's basically not working because of the cross in the middle, and showing, because with what they say and what they do, it exposes that false vision. And with the bull horns, I wanted to show how bullheaded those people are and how forceful they want to be, how controlling that they want to be or are, especially when it comes to minorities or other people. They have this perceived spear in the back like a bull does sometimes when it comes to those specific games. They're essentially playing games with other people's lives in that sense, with the bull iconography of the horns or whatever you want to call it. And the idea that it's like sneering like that, it's the idea of being like, ugh. It's more of a disgust, like a high and mighty proud look. It's because they're not actually proud of what they do. They don't actually mean the words that they mean. And the light exposing that just means that they're disgusted they got caught rather than disgusted with themselves. That's why they're not looking down. They're looking at whatever this light is or looking away from it, like rolling their eyes like, ugh, stupid. You know, hence, again, the use of the green color. And the green coming out from the nose and the mouth as well is very important because, like I said, with the saint iconography around the head, it's explaining these people live and breathe by their own word. It comes from within them. They'll do anything to keep it that way as well, including scapegoating people who have done literally nothing to them.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
Including people like me, like trans people, black people, brown people, you know, Hispanic people, disabled people, whoever else doesn't fit the norm that they have in their head. Hence the horns again. The space between them as well, I realized that that is the amount of leeway that they give other people. Hence why I painted them that way. And it was based off of the horns of the devil in legend.
Yes. Please.
If you don't know what Legend is, but I think it's one of the best movies ever of Tim Curry, just because I love Tim Curry. I think he's awesome. But specifically those horns, that's why they look a little bit odd. So, but with that being said, I also made the fangs really large, specifically in the front, just because it's kind of archaic. It's supposed to resemble both a lion and a saber-toothed tiger because they were one of the apex predators of way back when. And that's kind of what they're trying to continue or perpetuate through their words.
An eye for an eye, don't you think?
is this idea that survival of the fittest is the best. Survival of a certain species is the best, aka white supremacy. It just irks me so much that these people think that they're holier than thou, literally think that. They literally think that, hence this painting. But with that being said, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the scales on the body. It's their unwillingness to be soft. The idea that has recently come by social media is the idea that empathy is a sin.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And so they don't want that soft fur. They want armor. They want war. They want destruction. They don't want anything else. And how painful that can be for people who are sensitive to that kind of rhetoric and who are affected. I mixed it with a dragon, hence the scales being that way. A bull, a dragon, and a lion, all used in their negative sense of their symbolism. The dragon being one that burns others and takes what they want, which is not a bad thing in itself. It's just in this way, it's very harmful. And they don't even realize any of this because the rhetoric that they've made that's based on that religion has twisted itself into something that they think is law in the universe. And so something like that is very hard to challenge. It's very hard to change, I would say, because I've been there. I was conservative for the majority of my life up until I figured out who I was and why I was unhappy, and a lot of the reason why I'm spiritual rather than religious. There's just not a lot of substance in religion, in my opinion. And of course, if a religion works for you and you like Christianity and you're an actual good Christian that knows leadership when they see it, then good on you. That is totally fine, you know, because we should all be able to believe what we want to believe as long as it doesn't affect other people, is what I'm trying to say. But this painting is basically just serving as a mirror for those who are false prophet, hence the title that I gave the painting. But yeah, they definitely do not see the corruption that they've let weasel into their minds.
Weaselton. Duke Weaselton.
Either through politics or through their own doing or misunderstanding of something. It's also a cultural issue because a lot of America thinks that America is a Christian nation, and I do not believe that. I believe it is a nation that you are free to be Christian in, or any other religion for that matter. It's called a melting pot for a reason. It's not a country that only thrives off of one ingredient. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the little horns above the eyes is basically just yet another barrier when it comes to the eyes, because the darkness around the eyes, in addition to the spikes, is just yet another gate that people have to get through to get them to see another perspective. So it's like actively fighting different perspectives because they feel safe in their own perspective, because they're afraid of what it would mean for both themselves and their worldview if their perspective were to change at all, because they don't want to face the ugliness of what that would mean, facing the fact that they've acted a certain way for so long that they've caused a lot of harm to both themselves and others. They've changed a nation and were a part of a oppressive group that couldn't care less for other people. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. So I totally understand how that feels when it comes to realizing certain things that have happened in our lives and the way we reacted to things, because being Mormon, you are inherently conservative when you're born into it. So when I grew up, I agreed originally that marriage equality shouldn't be a thing, but I've always questioned it. And deep down, I'm like, why? Why is that a big deal? Because love is love. And again, I hadn't realized it's because I also was LGBT and was actively denying it. I was actively denying happiness to myself. So religion twisted the way that I thought about the world and myself. And I think a lot of people can agree with that to an extent, that religion has caused a lot of trauma in their lives. And I'm still dealing with trying to deconstruct this thing that I've been taught my whole life. Because when I first left, it was a lot of, oh, I can't go have coffee because it's bad for me. And I'm like, well, why though? After a while of denying myself, I would sit with myself and my feelings and be like, okay, well, why can't I have coffee?
Nope, I'm I've got the caffeine patch. It's my invention. Each patch is the equivalent of 12 cups of coffee. You can stay awake for days with no side effects. Ah! Sorry.
So I looked into it, and apparently it's a good thing to have coffee every once in a while if your body is able to handle it. And I'm like, well, why would church want me to stop drinking coffee? And the only reasons that I could find in our church information was that it was bad for you, bad for your heart, bad for your immune system, or some stupid shit like that.
Language.
I can't remember exactly what it said, but if you expand your perspective and look into information on the outside of what you're used to in a way that's comfortable for you and slowly come out of it that way, you're deprogramming what you were taught. Because when you look at children, they're born with zero issues against those who are different from them. And as they grow up, they're taught to hate people. And I don't think people realize how deep that goes or how early that starts. Because for me, that's literally been since I was born. So I had zero clue up until I became an adult that I could choose to do something differently. Makes you think, huh? It's actually quite sad, because I used to be fairly angry that I grew up Mormon, because I could have had a completely different and fulfilling life outside of it. Sometimes with my trans identity, I'm mad that I grew up Mormon, because I could have transitioned earlier. I could have transitioned, and who knows, I probably would have had a deeper voice. I probably would have had a different perspective on my body. I wouldn't be overweight. I'd be more comfortable with myself. More than just gender, I would have been more comfortable to be myself, both in my interests and my friends, more confidence. And I am just now coming into my confidence at 31. Half of my life already, or whatever you want to call it, almost half my life was spent trying to escape this control.
Take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth.
And unfortunately, a lot of people want to feel safe, and a lot of people feel safe in their religion. And when the religion is controlled by people who know how to manipulate to an extent, sometimes they don't know that they're manipulating people. But the ones that are the most dangerous would be those who know that they're manipulating people, like narcissists. And I'm not saying everybody who's religious is a narcissist, but like a lot of the times when people are in charge that are like that, they know to a certain extent that they are doing what they're doing for a reason. So just take that with a grain of salt. That's all I can really say. This is just my opinion, of course. Hence the reason I made the painting in the first place. I'll probably put this on Patreon as a copy, a digital copy, if you want to have the unwatermarked version. But yeah, it was really fun to paint. I just used acrylics. It was a fairly large painting as well. It was like 3 feet by 2.5 feet or something like that. Fairly long. And I picked it on purpose because I was challenging myself to make something bigger than an 8.5 by 11. Or something bigger than 28 inches by, I think it was like 19.5 or something like that from college. But yeah, I really enjoyed painting this. And I wish I had more patience for the fur though, because the fur on the bottom where I started, that's how it should have been on the rest of it. That was beautiful. If I could do this again, I would do it exactly like that. So I just have to have a little more precision, I think, next time in what brushes I use, and taking breaks more often instead of trying to rush through it. But yeah, I just wanted to make a small video on what this means. I hope you guys like it, and just remember to keep your minds and your hearts open. Peace.